The Times of Israel reported today that Netanyahu to meet Putin in Moscow 5 days before the Israeli elections. The meeting was confirmed by Russia, the article states, and it says, quote, an agreement has been reached that on April 4th, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will fly to Moscow for a brief working visit. On April 4th, such brief working talks will be held, and the sides will synchronize their watches, according to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Putin and Netanyahu spoke on Monday about regional issues. One of the statements I think is quite interesting that is prophetic is, it says, at the time Netanyahu stressed Israel's absolute commitment to continue to act to thwart Iran's efforts to military entrench itself in Syria. Tehran and Damascus are close allies of Moscow. And we know in Bible prophecy that Damascus is going to be a ruinous heap. The talks are going to be discussing the sovereignty that Donald Trump gave the sovereignty rights to Israel of the Golan Heights. It does say that Russia was a supporter of the establishment of Israel. President Donald Trump hosted Benjamin Netanyahu on March 25th and 26th in Washington, D.C. at the White House and had dinner with him on the 26th of March. All of that coming just before the Israeli elections. This was just announced on April 2nd that Netanyahu announced a surprise meeting with Putin at the Kremlin. That was mentioned in the Jerusalem Post and Breaking Israel News as well. It was reported already in January, late January, that this Rabbi Kanevsky had stated that the Messiah will already be here before the Israeli elections. And that's listed in several articles on the internet. I talked about that in an earlier video, how this Israeli soldier, or this young man who wanted to apply to be an IDF soldier, was told that it wouldn't be necessary because the Messiah will be here by the elections. My little bunnies have been playing and chasing each other, and now she's just sitting across from me, just resting and listening to me. She's such a sweetheart. Aren't you, Bunnykin? God loves you. When my mom was in her hospital bed, in the front bedroom, I would come out and these bunnies would be sitting in front of the bedroom like little sentinels, and they would be there when I came back from town to get my mom something. God bless them. This article was in the Christian Post, dated December 13th, 2016, on a Tuesday. Some rabbis in Israel believe Donald Trump could be Messiah or his forerunner, end-time author says. The Christian Post stated some comments from Tom Horn. What the Zohar said was he will be identified, the Messiah that is. From that day on forward, there have been at least a dozen Jewish rabbis that have said the Messiah is on earth now. He's been identified. He is soon going to make himself known, Horn said. Horn explained that the Messiah is not viewed in Jewish culture the same way Christians see the Messiah. Quote, for the Messiah to arrive, you can't think of him like we think of Messiah. We think of Messiah after the model of Jesus. He's the Son of God, divine birth, all of that. That's not how the Jews look at the Messiah. They're looking for a king. They're looking for a political leader. And so, a matter of fact, Messiah to them means the anointed one, and it goes back to the ancient days when they would anoint a king and recognize him as this man that God sent, Horn said, end quote. Quote, think about this for a moment. In the Jewish Zohar 700 years ago, in medieval Aramaic, Orthodox Jews speculated about when will the Messiah be on the earth. And in the section of the Zohar they said he would arrive on earth. He will make himself known in the year 5773, which was 2012 to 2013. Oddly enough, Trump goes to Israel in 2012, decides not to run for U.S. president, meets with heads of states, comes out of that. You can watch YouTube, and he starts talking to the Jewish people, telling them to vote for Benjamin Netanyahu, which they did, said Horn. The Messiah for the Jews, said Horn, will come in the form of a strong political figure. Quote, first of all, they are looking for somebody in a political figure who can lead decisive battles in defense of Israel. This is why the only politician on the face of the earth that was standing up and saying, if I'm elected president, I'm going to be the biggest friend that Israel's ever had. We're going to undo the Iran deal and being a friend of Benjamin Netanyahu, end quote, said Horn, referring to Trump. Among other things, Horn said the Messiah would come from the Davidic bloodline, and there is a group of people seeking to trace Trump's roots to the biblical King David. Quote, and there is an effort right now to go back through the European monarchy, cousins of President-elect Donald Trump, to show that his bloodline goes back to the Davidic dynasty. Now, why are these efforts underway? I'm just saying that there's something very strange here that's going on, and everything that I'm saying can be verified, said Horn. He reiterated his assertion that while some rabbis think Trump could be the Messiah, most believe he is a forerunner to the Messiah, like John the Baptist. Quote, I'm not saying that they actually think he's the Messiah. What I actually think is that most of the rabbis there think he's John the Baptist, and the Messiah is about to appear. He's the forerunner, Horn said, end quote. Quote, we would say the second coming is about to happen, but their Messiah is going to be a false Messiah. He's going to be the Antichrist, right? I also don't believe Donald Trump is the Antichrist. So I think the smart ones in Israel are looking at him right now saying, he is God's, what we would call John the Baptist. He's God's messenger. When he takes over in January, there's a 5777 countdown to the appearance of the Messiah, end quote, Horn said. The Jerusalem Post reported last month, when this article was written, that the chairman and minister in Israel said Trump's election could herald the coming of the Messiah due to the blow he expects the next president will strike against the non-Orthodox Jewish hold on the U.S. government, end quote. Quote, there's no doubt that one can give thanks to God that all those who have damned the Jewish covenant and would wipe out Judaism, thinking that they could take control over the land of Israel here and lead reforms in order to cause destruction, received their blow, end quote, Derry said during an address to the local religious council of Ashdod. Quote, if such a miracle can happen, we have already reached the days of the Messiah. Therefore, we are really in the era of the birth pangs of the Messiah, when everything has been flipped to the good of the Jewish people, end quote, he said. Horn then stated that 300 years ago, a rabbi he identified as Horowitz set the date for the Messiah's arrival on the Jewish calendar in the year 5777, which translates to a period between 2016 and 2017. Quote, now they're looking at Donald Trump. One of the rabbis illustrated how his name, the numerology of his name, actually means Messiah, end quote, Horn said. So that was a past article before all of this developments happened. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and try to identify the Antichrist. I already said that in a video before. And, you know, the Lord showed me a few things, which I have not shared on video. But it's interesting that things have developed since that article was written in 2016. So we've definitely progressed since that time, and we're closer than ever to the coming of the true Messiah. And looking forward to that blessed hope of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, the Son of David, King David, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And so, since the rabbis said that they believe that the Messiah will be coming before the Israeli elections, there's not much time left for them to state who they think that their Messiah is. So, anyway, this is just a few articles in the news that I wanted to share about the prophetic events that are coming to pass before our eyes. And now you've got Netanyahu meeting with Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin just 5 days before the Israeli elections. So it'll be interesting to see what happens coming up very quickly. But it's just really interesting that that article was written way back in 2016, quoting Tom Horn as saying these things, and now we've got these developments right before the Israeli elections, and putting every little piece of everything together, we're just seeing, that time is of the essence for the Messiah to appear, Jesus to appear. Soon the Lord will come. And they even believe that over there. Now she came back and she's sitting the other direction under the bush, hanging out with me while I'm sitting on my hammock. So we must all keep our eyes on the news to see what events are about to transpire. It's quite interesting. So that's what I'm reporting today on April 2nd, 2019. So based upon all of these news reports, we realize that today's April 2nd and the Israeli elections are April 9th, which gives us roughly the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th for the Messiah to show up. So it should be interesting to see what happens, if anything happens at all. But we all know that everything's lining up prophetically, and that we are in the end of days, according to every pastor and everyone who's all over the place talking about these things coming to pass quickly. Thank you for your support of my channel, and you'll love my prophetic book about the revealing of Jesus the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth. It's my testimony for the last days.
See, I can view you through this. This is called the camera. And this is the tripod. And I can view you through the camera, see? Just like this. That's my girl. My little bunnykin love. We love each other, don't we, bud? Yes, we do. Your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, isn't it? You're a righteous little bunny. Precious. God bless you, sweetheart. God loves you.